Welcome back to Make Music Happen, a podcast brought to you by the Songbirds Guitar and Pop Culture Museum. I'm one of your hosts, John.
And I'm your other host, Charlie. On this show, we take a deep dive into music and how it affects broader culture.
That's right. And as I understand it, we have a new artist on the show today. Well, I guess like new to me, right?
Yes, sir. Today I'm going to be introducing you and our dear audience to country music artist Nick Shoulders.
Right on. I like the sound of that. But before we get started, I have to disclose two things. One, I don't know who that is. And two, I am very picky about country music in general. But Charlie, for you, I'm going to go into this with an open mind.
Oh, same. But I think you're going to be pleasantly surprised here. You just heard a snippet of Snakes and Waterfalls, the first track off of Nick Shoulders' 2018 album, Lonely Like Me. John, first impressions?
Yeah, I'm in. I mean, sonically, I don't know why I was bracing myself, but this is old time. I'd like to hear some more of it.
Blackwater bottom to windblown tender town. It's my land, snakes and waterfalls.
It's absolutely old-timey, but don't get too comfortable. The way Nick arrived at this style is anything but, and I can't wait to tell you about it.
Oh, tease me. I love it.
Well, let's start by saying Nick is playing a concert here at Songbirds, December 16th, 2022, which is great, but not remarkable. We host a lot of country artists all the time, but what is remarkable is the pushback we've gotten on social media. You know, we've been posting about your show on social media, and we've gotten some pushback from like folks who follow us.
It's my stupid haircut, I understand.
Okay, I have questions.
I can answer this first one, I'm sure. It's not because of his stupid haircut. It's actually because Nick has some strong views about what country music is and how it relates to Southern culture.
Okay, I like the sound of that a lot, but I'm not going to let you gloss over this haircut thing. What are we talking here? Rat tail, mullet?
He's got a pretty distinct mullet.
Right on.
Pretty distinct mullet. As a matter of fact, when I was talking to him, I couldn't tell if it was like a toboggan that he was wearing on the top of his head with his hair sticking out, or if it was actually like his real hair. I decided that it was his real hair.
Well, I was already excited to see his show this week, but now I'm excited to see this mullet.
It will not disappoint, I can assure you. But it's not Nick's silly haircut that's pushing people's buttons.
Yeah, there's got to be more here because I got to say, like, this sounds pretty safe.
Sonically, maybe.
I am so weary, I'm as glum as I can be. All y'all have lost it. I meet your madness with pity. I don't blame you for being scared, but it's the wrong direction that your teeth are bared. We're fully busted. We know the ship is run aground. The things you trusted, they burned the farm and moved to town. And though I might eat all of my steaks rare, I never sold my soul to a billionaire. I keep it up.
Okay, there it is. I like where this song is going.
Me too. Just from that snippet of Bound and Determined, you can see Nick has strong feelings about what it means to be Southern. But let me back up a little bit, because as I mentioned, Nick's arrival to country music is very relevant here. And you're going to love it, John. So, your music career began in punk, right? So, like, would you say that punk was your first love?
I would say in a lot of ways, yeah. I was definitely like the annoying kid drummer in the basement, just like rumbling, playing like, you know, whatever crappy D-beat shuffle kind of thing going. But like, it wasn't long into punk, like searching, that I started kind of hearing overlaps with early country music, with bluegrass, especially rhythmically, like, you know, just with the do-check kind of rhythm structure. I was like, oh, this is stuff I'm used to hearing in this other context. And like, it has kind of the same, it makes you want to do the same thing, kind of move. Yeah, my roots in punk were very helpful, and especially like in just having a crappy local metal DIY scene to like, play loud, obnoxious music and like do that sort of thing. Like that was really helpful.
Aha, Nick has some punky origins. I love my country artists with DIY starts, and I bet you can guess who I'm referencing, right?
Orville Peck?
Yeah, you know me.
Knew it. But as Nick alluded there, punk is just half of his origin story.
My true first love, I think, was like some of the wobbly, weird old music that I was catching from like stuff my grandparents were listening to, or like, a little bit of what my dad was into. But yeah, I mean, growing up, I heard the like kind of tendrils that inform early roots country music, the like Southern gospel and, vocally centered traditions that like create the backbone of some of that early country material via my grandparents and like what my grandpa recorded and stuff.
Got it. Okay, so we've got punk and rootsy bluegrass as the two opposing sides of the Nick Shoulders coin.
Yes. And to prove the point, or flip the coin to use your metaphor, here's one of Nick's previous punk endeavors, the Thunder Lizards. This is Broner.
I mean, that band is sort of amongst a whole slew of, some more than others regrettable, just adolescent noise, where I think the rage that I was experiencing being in this like overtly theocratic, sort of repressive place that rural Arkansas is, which is, it's like a lot of places in rural America, but to have that experience and react against it, the most like viable and accessible channel was the heavy music and was the like aggressive stuff. And it is funny to sort of like parse through like the lyrical content of those bands versus like what we're doing now.
First of all, this is great thrashy punk. I think he's being very humble in calling this just adolescent noise. And then also I'm keying in on the phrase theocratic repressive place. So am I correct to say that in one artist, we're hearing seemingly opposite ends of a sound spectrum, like punk versus rural music, but to the same lyrical end?
You're not wrong, John, but Nick is going to add some nuance.
Ooh, I love nuance.
A lot of the same stuff. Like, we're still angry about a lot of the same things. We just happen to be yodeling them now. And like, I think that also kind of speaks to the world that informs like early punk music and early country music, and what we're experiencing now, where it's like, this kind of existence of being exposed to constant war and bank failures and stuff sounds a lot like what the Carter family were experiencing and writing about, or what like informs these kind of like pivotal people who really inform the beginnings of the genre that we operate in. And that same sort of reaction against like this thing that feels like overwhelming and crushing, that's what you hear a lot in sort of the despair and rage in punk music. So again, that overlap, it's not just rhythmic, and it's not just oh cool, fast bluegrass sounds like fast punk music. Like, there really is an ethical experience that informs both of those places, that has so much overlap that I think people are aware of on like an intuitive level. As silly as some of the punk origins may have been in terms of like what I feel like we got recorded, what I think it really did was highlight where the music mission has always sat, which is kind of an antithesis of these like repressive, overtly theocratic kind of social structures that don't leave any room for people to be truly happy, and just like working shit jobs and being in, perpetual debt and all that. And like that is the same fundamental like ethical driver of a lot of country music, and especially a lot of working class centered country music. So I mean, again, the plight and the structure of the music and what it's trying to say, like there's all sorts of overlaps there.
I'm growing tired of the big city's lights, tired of the glamour and tired of the sights, and all my dreams I am coming once more back to my home on the old river shore.
Am I falling for Nick's shoulders?
It was only a matter of time, John.
Far away from home is the Mississippi, and you. Days are dark and dreary everywhere I roam. Is the Mississippi, and you.
But here we are talking about the country iteration of Nick's career, not the punk phase or the adolescent noise phase, as he called it. So I have to ask, what happened?
Well, I read in another interview that Nick, quote unquote, got fed up with playing punk stuff. So I asked him pretty much that exactly.
So I had this like early indoctrination with the like warbly old kind of pre-microphone sounding vocal stuff, and was interested in that thread of my family, and I knew that my other grandpa had played like guitar and fiddle and stuff, but I didn't have much love for it because it was kind of this like novel, shameful thing. And so when I lived in Colorado, I definitely had played in like some crappy metal and punk bands, but I was recovering from surgery and really homesick and on probation from some dumb stuff. So I picked up the banjo and started digging back into my family's music and the origins of country music during that period especially.
All right, I'm reading between the lines here a little bit, but it sounds like some forced reflection time, only not maybe the pandemic variety like we talked about with Amanda Shires.
Which that episode you can listen to on Spotify or YouTube or Apple Music or wherever you get your podcasts.
That's right. So we didn't delve into what he referred to as probation for some stupid stuff there. But what's important is he had the time to really think and reflect on what he wanted to express with his music.
So that just sort of cemented into this like, okay, well, I'm recovering from surgery. There's blizzards out. I hate living in Colorado. There's more people in Denver than the state I'm from. And that sort of became part of this thesis project of like building the idea of like what cultural and social forces create the conditions to make this music. And part of the inevitable expression of like reacting to the culture I'm in has been the loud, scary, aggressive stuff. But like, again, the country music we make is mostly expressing that same sort of ethos.
And we talked about kind of your influence on from Southern Baptist gospel music. Do you think you could dig a little deeper into that? Like how relevant was that in your life when you were younger? And like
Sure.
what and then what really got you started thinking about like, what it all means? You know what I mean? Like what it kind of stands for.
Yeah, I think I have like some home videos of me as I think probably a 4 or 5 year old, and I'm fishing in the like little boggy little cypress puddle next to my parents' house, and I'm like doing impersonations of my grandpa singing, who, I was doing like Patsy Cline songs because he was doing Patsy Cline songs. And my mom asked something like, "Are you going to be a singer like your dad or your grandpa?" And I was like, "No," like straight up no. And, but I was obviously like parroting it and hearing it. My grandmother on that side's family was from Louisiana. And her mother was a professional gospel singer. My grandfather on that side, like I said, has this whole slew of these bizarre recordings that he made in Little Rock with this lady, Betty Fowler. So I have these like 9 albums of like Pat Riley sings country, Pat Riley sings patriotic, Pat Riley's religious musical moments, Pat Riley sings Christmas, Pat Riley sings, Pat Riley still sings, like there's this, it's kind of madness, but I put some of it on YouTube under Pat M. Riley, and it's, kind of this bizarro, like, if you listen to it, you're like, oh, this is like some weird, Rat Pack country circa 1973.
I walk today where Jesus walked in days of long ago.
Here's Nick's grandfather, Pat M. Riley, from Nick's YouTube channel.
With reverent step and slow, those little lanes, they have not changed. A sweet peace fills the air.
This is like drum machine, weird, warbly gospel music. I think that particular thread of early country music also kind of expresses the like physical and demographic place it comes from, but like down in the lowland parts, that's where my family is mostly centered. And that singing and that vibrato that's on it really comes from that crossover with early black gospel music, and the place that like early blues and the segregation of the music industry really suffers from this like collective amnesia, where like the physically diverse place that this music comes from and that singing style comes from really speaks to an experience that is distinctive and trying and like intense about the South.
Say the things you used to say and make the world go away. Do you remember when you loved me before the world?
Yep, I'm falling for him.
If by falling for him, you mean you're tracking with how he thinks about Southern music, then me too.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
This is where Nick makes an interesting distinction between country and rural music, which is not really something I thought about before. Oh, and birds.
What?
Birds.
Birds.
I also spent so much time in the woods as like a bored kid impersonating bird calls. Like my first time experimenting with diaphragm control and stuff was impersonating barred owls. So like a whole other part of the yodels and whistles and stuff I got from my dad and from my more Ozarky side of the family that was in Missouri. But the true like power behind what I think I learned how to sing with is from that like lowland gospel side of my family.
I see. That's cool. He's really drawing inspiration from his entire environment.
Yeah, that's right. Let me circle us back here to get what your average country music fan finds irksome about our dear Nick.
Right, yeah, because again, he's checking all the boxes so far. He's clearly passionate about his heritage, and he's got a very clear understanding of how that heritage plays out in his sound. So again, he's not really coming across as too controversial to me.
To be honest about country music's origin, about what it means culturally, where it came from originally, who played it originally, and for what reasons, that inevitably leads you back to trying to understand the South and the South's history and the relationship with, the exploitation of the working class and the profiteering on the labor of enslaved people and the theft of Native American land.
Now we're getting to it. For Nick, country music can't be separated from what it actually means to call something Southern.
This is turning on a light for me. This is why popular country music is so touchy for me. There's so much about the connotations, or at least popular connotations of what country is, that really gross me out, to be honest.
I think I know what you mean, but can you elaborate on that?
Sure, like I don't drive a comically huge truck. I don't like barbecue. I don't wear camo. I'm not religious. I mean, I could go on.
So you must not be Southern.
Yeah, right. Like my Southern experience is not represented in popular country music, but I am Southern.
On a lonely night like any other in a place I'm known to go, to croon a song to a patient throng of folks that you might know, to sing the songs of hard times, hard feelings and hardened hearts, but nothing seemed to grab them until a patron he remarked, won't you play it in G for Jesus and let your Holy Spirit show. Keep your pain and your midnight trains, and on to higher ground we'll go. Don't sing the songs about whiskey, and I'm so lonesome that Mama tried. So play it in G for Jesus, and you might leave this bar alive. How do you live?
We live and we speak with a hybridized dialect with, this history and all this knowledge and these scars of war all around us. And so when we divorce Southernness from country music, when we try to make country music just about cowboys around campfires and about, rural somewhere, that it's just some dusty road and some dusty fence, and like that's it, is your tractor sexy and stuff, we really lose what makes the music actually compelling, which is that it comes from this place and this time in American history, from this war and from this enslavement and from this land theft that is very specific to how American empire became what it is and why we have so much suffering and inequality and resentment in our lives today.
Okay, this is the sound of Nick pushing buttons. I hear it now.
Right. He's saying that your typical country artist or pop country producer or writer is divorcing the music from the actual experience.
And I think being honest about country music's origins leads you to be honest about America's origins. You can't run from history down here. It's all around you. There's battlefields and Trail of Tears markers, and like everything that you are walking on is built on this very tumultuous experience.
And I played it in G for Jesus. I let my Holy Spirit show. I kept my pain and my midnight trains, and on to higher ground I'll go. I won't sing the songs about whiskey, and I'm so lonesome that Mama tried. I'll play it in G for Jesus, though none of us leave this world alive. No, you won't leave this world alive. None of us leave this world alive.
But you're also aware that like there's this gorgeous soundtrack and there's all this preserved green space, or at least a lot of it compared to some places in this country. And you realize that like what is born of all that hardship is this really precious, wonderful thing, which is our like cultural legacy and what that represents from this like pluralistic, hybridized, this spot in American life where like we had the unique experience of having neighbors that are different than just us, and that has influenced the music and the sonic qualities of everything that like country music represents.
Wow. I mean, I'm in awe. He has described the American Gothic here. The honest South is bleak, but it's beautiful. It's earnest and it's inclusive.
He's rejecting what's become the status quo for country, but not just to tear it down. He's kind of saying we all got tricked into a fake white nostalgia.
rural, ranch-rich, sort of white novelty nostalgia trip that doesn't actually exist anywhere but in this cowboys around campfires, fake Western sort of context.
Yeah, I am starting to see why this might cause some pushback.
So yeah, and if it wasn't clear enough in his music, he actually wrote an editorial called Fake Twang, How White Conservatism Stole Country Music, back in March of 2020.
This is all I think about is this very specific cultural hijacking of this music tradition and why it mirrors a cultural hijacking elsewhere. You know, like Merle Haggard's Fight Inside of Me and what that song says, and Nixon's Southern strategy of flipping the South to vote Republican, you know, they're happening within such a close span of one another that it really can't be anything but worth looking into in terms of like, what does this working class music from this pan-racial origin point that suffered under an agri-oligarchy to express the needs of people who were like keeping intact this vernacular music tradition, like how do we get from that to hyper patriotic defense of like the industrial military state?
Yeah, I mean, that's the question, right? How did we get from the Carter family, who Nick mentioned earlier, to artists like Merle Haggard and then later Toby Keith, who had absolutely no qualms writing and singing about what Nick calls this hyper-patriotic defense of the industrial military state? And I agree, it's worth thinking about. It's worth asking questions about.
Or how did we get an entire class of pan-racial people to start voting against their own interests? It sounds really touchy, but keep in mind, if this is getting you charged up, Nick is just looking at musical history and asking questions.
If you are a student of the music, you know that at some point there was a real shift in what it represented lyrically and culturally. And that shift comes with the rise of what we mentioned earlier, which is this sort of like pan-rural, white, nostalgic sort of dream existence that is centered around the soundtrack that is sort of what we would call now pop country.
And now it's like on steroids.
Yeah. I was going to say, it's a whole other universe now.
Gosh, I am loving this, and I am loving him.
I knew you would. I hate to say it, but we're kind of getting towards the end of the conversation I had with Nick.
No!
Don't worry. I'm also excited to tell you about Nick's newest EP called Heart of Night. I mean, it just came out this December.
Oh, okay. Well, that sounds like a nice little parting gift. But before we do that, I want to take a short break to talk to Reed, the executive director of the Songbirds Foundation. He popped in the studio last week to update me on their good work. Okay, Reed, why don't you fill us in on what's going on with the Songbirds Foundation these days?
Well, a lot, as per usual. We've done a lot the last couple of weeks. We went out to Tyner Middle Academy here in Chattanooga and gave them guitars, and they had very excited students and a great teacher, and Kevin Southall out there. It's always great to give those guitars out. It's fun to watch kids freak out as they open those boxes up and hold their awesome Epiphone Pro ones that we just got from Gibson up. They look they're good looking guitars.
If you're a teacher and you want or need guitars and curriculum, how can you do that?
You can go on our website. We've got a place now where a teacher can apply to become a Guitars for Kids teacher. And then we vet that teacher in the school, and then hopefully we just able to train them up and get guitars to them. So we've got a lot of guitars going out. We've got about 1,000 going out in the next 4 or 5 months to schools in Missouri and Mississippi and Alabama, some more in Chattanooga and around in Tennessee, Georgia, North Carolina, South Carolina. We're
taking over the region.
We're regional now.
I think that's an important point too, though, is if you're a teacher and you don't know how to play guitar, we have a solution for that, right?
Yeah. we'll train you. We'll train you how to play guitar. So basically the only commitment that you have to have as a teacher to this program is the willingness to learn. You have to want to sit down and learn how to play guitar. We can connect you with one of our guitar teachers here in Chattanooga via Zoom, and do 18 to 20 weeks of lessons with you and help you learn how to deliver our curriculum in your classroom. It's a cool program. But if you already know how to play guitar, it just streamlines the process as well.
And how much does that cost?
Nothing.
What?
For the teacher, nothing, yes. It's a rare thing where the teachers are not having to pay out of their own pockets. It's a great thing. We're very proud of that. If you're not a teacher and you want to donate to help support that, that's pretty easy. You can make a donation to our Guitars for Kids program at songbirdsfoundation.org. You can come by the museum and make a donation. We've got a bunch of cool stuff. You can you can buy a guitar pick that goes on the wall in the museum with your name on it. We've got other things you can name around the museum. Just lots of ways you can participate in that program.
Very cool. Well, thanks for stopping by.
Anytime.
Once I found love and it was a gas.
And we're back.
Yeah. You were just about to tell me about Nick's newest EP.
That's right. So we're actually listening to the first cut of it now. This is called Heart of Glass.
Which I just learned is a Blondie cover.
Mucho mistrust, love's gone behind. In between, what I find is pleasing and I'm feeling fine. Love is so confusing, there's no peace of mind. If I fear I'm losing you, it's just no good. You tease me like it do.
I love it. You know, I can hear his grandfather's warbly influence in this.
Once I found love and it was divine.
Your new EP, which is Heart of Night, with is it the Lostines?
Lostines, yeah. You know, part of the foundational aspect to this, our sound, is definitely like the New Orleans dance hall, like weirdo honky tonk world that has existed down there for the last little bit. And the Lostines are good friends of ours from that whole scene down there. It's been fun to highlight bands from that scene who have some of that same influence and crossover. And the Lostines sound totally different from us or really any of that music that I mentioned. But if you are paying attention, you can hear aspects of it in there from like a different standpoint than us. But yeah, we're always just really happy to get our friends' music out in the world. And I'm a big believer in those folks. You know, they've got like dreamy lullaby harmonies on there, and we've got one kind of just honkin' tonkin' party time, like rockabilly sounding version of an old fiddle tune. So it's, you know, incongruent's a word, but you could also say they're just odd bedfellows. So it's been fun to put that out in the world.
Once I found love and it was a gas. Soon turned out had a heart of glass. Seemed like the real thing and it was divine. Mucho mistrust, love's gone behind. In between, what I find is pleasing and I'm feeling
That's all I got. I
Sweet.
appreciate your time very much.
Thank you, Charlie. It was very painless. I enjoy a good tit for tat.
Well, I can say that I am completely smitten. Charlie, thank you for introducing me to a new artist and giving me some food for thought on country music.
Absolutely. My pleasure. To our listeners out there, thank you so much for all the encouragement.
Yeah, we are really enjoying making the show, and if you have any feedback, we'd love to hear it. You can find us on the web, songbirdsfoundation.org, or on Spotify, or Apple Music, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Hey, and don't forget to leave a review. Those really help our rankings.
Yes, thanks everyone.
See you next time.
Make Music Happen is a production of the Songbirds Guitar and Pop Culture Museum. We are produced by Charlie Moss and Reed Caldwell. This episode was written by Charlie Moss and John Dooley. The edit, sound design, and master was done by John Dooley. Our logo and show art is by Mars Michael. Special thanks to Victoria Sauer, Jan Michael Lewis, and WUTC.